One wrong movement, and she would die. A simple nomad woman stood over the most dangerous man in Canaan, with a wooden tent peg in her trembling hand. Beneath her laid Sisera, the giant warlord whose armies had terrorized Israel for 20 years. Thousands feared him. Entire cities obeyed him. If he opened his eyes now, she would never leave this tent alive. Yet Jael slowly raised the heavy mallet above her head. How did a woman living in a desert tent become the person who would change the future of an entire nation? This isn't merely a story about war. It's the story of how one quiet woman ended 20 years of terror using household tools. To understand how this dangerous moment happened, we must first understand who Jael was. She belonged to the Canaanite tribe. The Canaanites were peaceful desert nomads who lived in tents, raised livestock, and traveled seasonally searching for water and grazing land. They belonged to no empire and avoided the wars around them. Jael's husband, Heber, had even secured peace with King Jabin. Because of that treaty, Jael's camp was considered safe. Soldiers ignored them completely, and trouble never seemed likely to arrive. Yet beyond their peaceful camp, the land was suffering. Israel had endured 20 years of oppression under King Jabin and Sisera. Sisera's cruelty was legendary. He ruled through fear, crushing freedom wherever he went. Mothers even used his name to frighten children. He destroyed villages without mercy and seized farmers' crops, leaving countless families hungry, desperate, and struggling simply to survive. No one challenged Sisera because he commanded 900 iron chariots, terrifying machines that dominated battlefields and crushed resistance everywhere. People became so frightened they abandoned roads, deserted homes, and hid in damp mountain caves rather than risk encountering Sisera's forces. Terrified families prayed desperately for deliverance. While everyone else hid from danger, one woman named Deborah chose to stand up. Deborah was an elderly prophetess filled with unwavering faith. One day, she summoned Barak, commander of Israel's hidden resistance fighters. When the message reached him, Barak immediately left his home in Kadesh. He traveled south to meet the woman everyone respected. Days later, Barak arrived beneath Deborah's palm tree. There, the prophetess was waiting with a message that would change everything. Deborah looked directly at him and delivered God's command. "Gather 10,000 men and march to Mount Tabor." She promised God would trap Sisera's army near the Kishon River. But Barak feared his lightly armed soldiers couldn't possibly win. Desperate and uncertain, Barak made a condition. He would go only if Deborah accompanied him into the coming battle. Deborah agreed, but warned him that the honor would not belong to him. Someone else would receive the glory instead. "The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hand of a woman." Barak ignored the warning. He simply wanted to survive. Barak gathered his men, and together with Deborah, they marched toward the Kishon River to face Sisera's seemingly unstoppable army. When Sisera learned the Israelites were actually coming to fight, he laughed openly. To him, victory seemed completely guaranteed. Confident and arrogant, Sisera assembled all 900 iron chariots alongside thousands of trained soldiers near the Kishon Valley. He raised his spear and ordered the charge. The earth trembled beneath the weight of iron wheels and galloping horses. But as the chariots advanced, darkness swallowed the valley. A violent supernatural storm exploded overhead and transformed the battlefield. It was a monstrous wall of water that flooded the earth in seconds, accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning that struck the iron chariots, turning them into electric traps. The peaceful Kishon River instantly turned into a roaring, overflowing wall of wild water. In minutes, the dry ground turned into a deep, thick, sucking swamp of mud. The heavy iron chariots, Sisera's greatest strength, became his worst nightmare. Sisera watched his invincible army fall apart in moments. Realizing the battle was completely lost, his pride was completely shattered. The great general did something no one ever expected. He jumped down from his beautiful chariot and began running away on foot into the blinding rain, desperate to save his own skin. His feet were bleeding from the sharp stones, and every time the wind blew, he jumped, looking for any place to hide from Barak's chasing army. This brought Sisera directly to the peaceful camp of the Canaanites, and straight to the tent of Jael. When Jael saw the exhausted, muddy warrior stumbling into her camp, she recognized him instantly. She knew the treaty her husband had with his king, but she also knew about his 20 years of cruelty. She did not run away. She did not scream. Instead, she walked out to meet him with a gentle, welcoming smile and said,
"Thank you."
"Turn aside, my lord. Turn aside to me. Do not be afraid." Sisera let out a massive sigh of relief. He thought fortune was finally smiling on him. He stumbled past her, crossing the threshold into the dark, cool safety of her tent. But what he didn't know was that this little movement was going to completely destroy his life. Sisera lay on the floor, his body shaking from pure exhaustion, and his throat burning with thirst. He looked up at Jael. "Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty." Jael nodded submissively. She turned to a leather container, but she didn't give him water. She wanted him to feel completely safe and relaxed. She opened a skin of rich, warm, creamy milk instead. She poured it into a beautiful, heavy, lordly bowl and held it for him as he drank greedily, spilling it down his muddy beard. The heavy milk, the warmth of the thick blanket she draped over him, and the sheer exhaustion of running for his life worked together perfectly. Sisera's eyelids became incredibly heavy. The tension in his massive body began to melt away into the soft rugs. But right before he closed his eyes, his paranoia flared one last time. "Stand at the door of the tent," he whispered heavily. "If anyone comes and asks you, 'Is there a man here?' you must say, 'No!'" Jael looked down at him, her face completely unreadable, and gave a soft nod. "Rest, my lord. I will watch." Satisfied, Sisera closed his eyes. Within seconds, the most feared man in the world fell into a deep, heavy sleep, his loud snoring filling the small tent. Jael stood over the sleeping giant, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. She knew that peace with a tyrant was no real peace at all. She knew that if this man woke up rested, he would return to his king, rebuild his army, and continue murdering innocent people. She had a massive choice to make.
She chose
Stay silent, play the role of a good host, and protect a monster, or risk her life to free a nation. She chose bravery. She moved with absolute silence. She knelt right beside his head. Sisera was turned on his side, his temple completely exposed and defenseless. She placed the sharp point of the wooden peg directly against his skin. She raised the heavy mallet. With all the strength in her body, built from years of pitching tents in the hard desert ground, she prepared to strike. The entire universe seemed to hold its breath in that tiny tent. The heavy wooden mallet hit the top of the peg with tremendous, bone-crushing force. The sharp wood pierced clean through the warlord's temple before his brain could even register the pain. With absolute determination, she continued what she had begun. There was no hesitation left in her heart. When it was over, Jael lowered the mallet and sat beside the lamp. Dawn was beginning to touch the tent walls. Jael stood up, pulling her heavy breathing under control. Her heart was hammering against her ribs, but her hands were completely steady. She wiped a stray drop of blood from her cheek and calmly walked back to the entrance of the tent to wait. A short time later, the loud, thunderous sound of galloping horses echoed through the valley. Barak, still leading the hunt for the general, rode fiercely into Jael's camp. He was searching everywhere for his enemy, his face frantic and his sword drawn. Jael calmly stepped out from her tent into his path. She didn't look afraid or panicked. She looked at the tired warrior and spoke with quiet confidence. Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. Barak quickly dismounted and followed her into the dark tent. When his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he stopped dead in his tracks, completely frozen in shock. There lay the mighty General Sisera, dead on the floor, with a wooden tent peg driven completely through his head. At that moment, Barak remembered the words of the prophetess Deborah. "The honor will not be yours, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman." It hadn't been a queen in a palace or a female warrior on the battlefield. It was Jael, a nomad woman with a blanket, some milk, and a tent peg. From that day on, the power of the cruel King Jabin was completely broken, and the people of Israel finally walked out of their caves and returned to their homes. The land finally enjoyed peace for 40 years. Jael's name was sung by generations as the most blessed of women, the unlikely hero who had the courage to strike when the world needed it most.
Hey guys, these videos takes many hours of hard work. If you could please like the video and subscribe. Also, we want to see which countries our videos reach. If you could please comment which country you're watching from, it'll truly help us. See you till the next video.